Hey, Pure Soul members, happy October. I'm super glad that you guys are here with me today. I do want to take a minute to let you know that our monthly Ask Nikki Zoom will be held on Thursday, October 20th at 6 p.m. And I hope you guys can join this month. Also, I will send out a link to that to make sure that everybody has that for the day of. Again, it's October 20th, Thursday at 6 p.m. I really do hope to see you there. During our Zoom session this month, what I thought that we could discuss is about our calling or our purpose on this earth. And that's actually what I'm doing our spiritual focus topic video on this month. So I'll start with that, and then you can take some of that information with you over the next couple weeks, and then maybe we could talk about that a little bit more in depth when we have our Ask Nikki. So what is my calling? What is my purpose? Or why am I even here on this earth? And that is our spiritual focus topic. So if you take a poll and you go around town and you ask people about their calling, you're going to have a group of people that tell you that they just recently found their calling and they're really dived into this spiritual aspect of themselves, and they're on this whole journey, and they're going to share with you that that was a recent find. And then you're going to talk to some people who are going to tell you that they knew their calling ever since they were small children, that they always knew they wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer, a teacher, or something like that. So they know that and feel that inside of themselves when they're really small children. And at the same time, you're going to have other people telling you that they have absolutely no idea what their calling is. They don't even know why they're here on this earth. And what do you mean, what is my purpose, right? So there's some people that are going to pull away from that and not really worry about that or focus on it because it's a huge concept and maybe they just don't think they have a calling. So before we really dive into the bones of that, then we should really try to figure out what is a calling and what does that really represent for us in our lives. So a calling is something that makes you feel like your life is meaningful. It makes you feel an inner motivation or a prompting or that inner draw towards something, and that inner draw tends to make you take action on something, and that's usually what a calling is representative of. A calling is also something that while you're doing it, you may lose time. So you may be involved in a project or something and you'll recognize that 2 or 3 hours passed, but you don't feel like 2 or 3 hours passed. It feels like an hour, 20 minutes. And so when you're working in your calling, you'll notice that time escapes you. And because your body and your soul are both agreeing with the thing that you're doing at that time, that's what causes that no time feeling. And you'll notice that people that are working in their calling, they don't tire easily. They can work at it and work at it and work at it, but because they feel like they're not really in time, then they can work at it much longer and with more motivation than if we're forcing ourselves to do something. So what types of callings might you have, right? So a calling could be something that might quietly, it might like catapult you into a deep thought or reflection of your life, causing you to take action on something. So, for example, maybe you're disheartened because you go downtown and you see that there are so many homeless veterans on the street, and it affects you so deeply and causes you to reflect on your morals and what you believe, and you feel prompted in a way to take action or to do something about the homeless veterans. And so that would be one example where something like prompts you to move forward or catapults you into that deeper thought. And that's one way. Then a calling could also be something that like you accidentally realize that you're good at, something that comes easy or something that comes natural to you. So for example, maybe in high school you took an art class and you realized that you can draw and you can paint, and like you found your niche in high school because of art, and you realize that when you're painting or you're drawing, you're totally losing time, and you realize in that time that you are like an amazing artist. So a calling could be something like that that you're just really, really good at. Another way to identify your calling or understand or find your calling is you could be called to you could be called to your calling by invitation. So maybe it's because you were invited to do something and that sparked something inside of you that prompted you to move forward. So what's a good example? A friend of mine was asked to participate like in this Christmas celebration at this nursing home. So unbeknownst to her, of course, she had a blast. And she started to go like weekly after the Christmas celebration. She had met a few of the residents at the nursing home, and they became friends, and she started to go every week, and on the weekend she'd be there and she'd be visiting all the people. And I asked her one time, I was like, why do you keep going every week? And she looks at me and she's like, oh my God, Nikki, it's my calling. And so that was really something that was born in her because she was invited to participate in something, and she did, and she discovered that it filled her, and it filled her to give, and it filled her to receive, and they depended on her. And interestingly enough, she ended up depending on them too for that connection. And what you'll find is that when you have a calling, it is equally beneficial to the people around you as it is for yourself. So it's like a constant sharing that occurs when you are in your calling. So really, whatever your calling is, you are going to notice that it aligns with your talents and your skills. It aligns with your moral structure. And my mom used to say all the time, you know, Nicole, God qualifies the called. He doesn't call the qualified. And it eases you to really understand that, because you might not think that you're qualified or you're prepared or the thing that motivates you. Like, what if it is the homeless veterans? Like, it seems like too big of a project to begin. What if you decided when you were a little kid, or you always knew that you wanted to be a writer, and now you're 25 and you're thinking, well, I'm supposed to be a writer, but writing a book, wow, that's really big. That's too hard. I'm not able to do that. I'm not qualified to do that. Look at all the other people doing it that are so much better than me. And that's where our calling sometimes gets halted or limited, because we don't trust that we can do it or that we're qualified to do it. And that kind of brings about some anxiety and a little bit of feeling of insecurity. And it's really encouraged to bust through that, because your calling is as much for you as it is for the people around you. And try to get past that barrier of those feelings of insecurity, because trust that if this is your calling, God, in fact, I promise you that He'll prepare you for it. Sometimes your calling comes, for example, I knew a lady about 35 years ago or so, and she was a drug addictions counselor. And I had asked her about her career and why she wanted to do that, or why she started doing that type of counseling. And she said, well, I really believe it's my calling. And I said, well, why do you think it's your calling, or what makes you believe it's your calling? And she said that when she was growing up, her mom's youngest sister, who lived with them, was addicted to drugs, and she saw the destruction that happened with her aunt, and she saw how it really broke apart the family, and she was a victim of those circumstances. And so when she got into high school and she was getting ready to pick her major, she was trying to figure out what she was going to do, and she prayed about it. And I always suggest praying about things, because God will lead you to your calling. In any case, she prayed about it, and she said that when she was praying, she just kept like crying and crying, and she didn't know why. And I said, well, what were you thinking about that was making you cry? And she said she was thinking about her whole childhood and how she witnessed all of this addiction throughout her family, not just with her aunt, but, as she got older, she recognized that that was, extended to other family members as well. And she said, and that's how I chose what I was going to do, because I'm not an addict, but I see what it does. And that's why I want to help people. I don't want other kids to experience what I experienced when I was little. And so one of the things that she really recognized is that her entire life prepared her to be the addictions counselor, because she grew up in that way. So sometimes God is qualifying you and teaching you for your calling, and you don't even know he's doing it. You're just thinking like, wow, like this is life. So that's probably what's happening, is just my life. But in all actuality, you're totally being trained for your gift, or for the way that you'll elevate humanity through your calling. And everybody has a calling. Every single person has a calling. Some people believe that when you have a calling, there's some kind of fanfare that happens as a result of your calling, but that's not true. It's just it's something that fulfills you, and it internally fulfills you. So you don't really need the world to put you up on a pedestal, because that's not the way it works for you. So how do you find your calling? The best way to find your calling is to listen to like your internal compass. Do the things that you're prompted to do. Listen to the things that you're prompted to listen to. And don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone, because again, your calling might make you feel some feelings of insecurity or inadequacy. Don't let that stop you. So sometimes your calling takes you outside of your comfort zone. The next thing that's really important is if you pay attention to how you feel when you're doing things or when you're trying new things, because sometimes when you're trying new things or when you're practicing things, you can feel how you feel in your body, in your mind, in your emotion. And if it's something that brings you joy and you're feeling good about it, then it would be really great to think about that in respect to what you would be called to do. Also, try learning new things, because sometimes when we learn new things, we discover that we're really good at it. What else? Oh, also sometimes your dreams, they can kind of guide you toward your calling, and coincidences guide you toward your calling, because you'll just notice, oh, this keeps happening to me. I'm always finding myself in the position to help a person do this, or to explain this topic to a person, or to teach a person this particular thing. So sometimes it's like that. It's just, if something like keeps happening and it's coincidence, you might be discovering your call.